In the Tamil Solidarity campaign, we don't support the unitary constitution of Sri Lanka. We don't think that there is a consensus among the Tamils to be in the united Sri Lanka. The Tamil national question has been the issue in Sri Lanka for a long time. The Tamils have expressed that they don't want to be part of the unitary constitution, and that's why the struggle took place, and it still is the case, etc. However, that we don't know what is at this stage what is the Tamils are feeling like, etc. When I say Tamils, it's Tamils living in all parts of Sri Lanka. So now what happened recently is that there is a struggle took place in the south. So this is this video is the question, addressing the question about the role of Tamil in this particular struggle. But if you look at it, quite a lots of Tamils have supported the struggle and taken part in the struggle. What are these Tamils? Tamils from hill country, for example. Tamils, a section of the Tamils in the east. Quite a large number of Tamils were living in the south. They all took part in this particular struggle. But there is one issue that was very clear, is that the Tamils in the north did not massively take part in it. It does not mean that they didn't really support the issue or support the struggle, but they did not take part in it. One of the main key reasons for that is that they are not mobilized. There are two reasons. One is some section of the forces that involved in mobilizations of the struggle in the south are not capable of mobilizing these people in the north. The other is the so-called Tamil parties and its leaders completely opposed mobilizing the Tamils as part of the struggle. This is two key reasons. The third thing is that why wouldn't these Tamils themselves rise up and then protest, etc., etc., and so on? That's one question also asked. Yes, they are angry about the situation, etc., etc., but they are confused, and they did not see this as part of their struggle at that stage in the north. These are all true. But the question then on the national question would decide, is this question about, is the Tamils don't care about what's happening, or is the question about they are okay, they're happy? No, this is the thing. Tamils in fact are more affected by the ongoing economic situation in Sri Lanka. They are more affected in terms of the poverty, the problems they face, etc., and so on. You cannot pitch the economic situation against the national question. It flows together. That's an important understanding. Sometimes in the Tamil community, in the leadership and also some sort of in the active layer, they talk about as though these are separate issues, as though the Tamils are not affected by the ongoing economic crisis in Sri Lanka, which is really, really wrong actually. The Tamils are affected by the economic crisis in Sri Lanka. There is some people argue that because of the remittance and then situation, etc., Tamils are less affected. They don't feel there is a buffer economy, blah, 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 all these arguments. All wrong, actually. There is truth in it in terms of remittance, but that's only in the hub, the Jaffna town hub. There are some people may be affected, may be able to escape certain issues. Very small. But if you go to Kilinochchi, if you go to parts of areas, that's not the case. They're all affected by it. In fact, more affected by it. So are they not to feel angry? They only have to do something about the national question? Are they just don't worry about anything, these conditions, and accept it? No, they cannot. They don't. This is the point. So this is the question, is that this particular crisis affects everyone. Its impact on everybody's life. However, in order to oppose this one, there is another factor that plays a part in this, is that the fear factor. In the north and many parts, they cannot protest themselves. They cannot come to the street. They will be attacked. They will be framed as a terrorist, etc. I've heard many people say that, okay, in the south, they're able to go there on the protest, etc. They're able to deal with it. Here, they will crush us. This is also an important factor where Tamil leadership able to do this propaganda that Tamil don't care and Tamil are okay, which is just a mere propaganda, which is not true. It's a fear factor. Everything exists in the north is also need to be considered. The economy, they are affected by the economy. Of course, when you protest against the economic condition, it doesn't mean that they give up the national question or they give up the idea of their democratic rights, etc. That's not how it works. It actually flows together. This is particular point that not understood by many NGO as well as the political leaders and activists, etc., and so on and so forth. Right. Now, there is not an opposition to Aragalaya. Like if you look at even Tamil leaders, some of them have not really come out and opposed the Aragalaya in words, but in action they did. However, there is no support for the Aragalaya in the north, I said. So then there are three different arguments, if you wanted to summarize it, that put forward. One is that if the Tamils are mobilized into supporting their Aragalaya and taking part, then it dilute the question or dilute the national question. Or we're just taking part together, so you don't need an independent state anymore. Some will argue like that. Another one is that commonly argued, particularly in the NGO circles, is that, oh, the Aragalaya has not taken up the Tamil demands, they have not really said anything about the Tamils, etc. So what's the point of supporting? We will wait and see. The third thing is that this fear or the suspicion that this is just Sinhala people really struggling, but what is this happening there in the south? We don't know. They all will go back to the Sinhala Buddhist nationalism soon after that, and so on. This is the situation. These are the kind of three things. I can just summarize it a little bit if you want, just for the discussion's sake. So, if you look at the argument, this is the last argument that the Sinhala Buddhist nationalists, they go back into the thing. It's really bad. Before addressing that particular point, one more thing is that for Tamils have faced enormous difficulty with the Rajapaksa government coming back with the two-third majority. He famously said that I don't need the Tamil vote and I'm a leader of a Sinhala majority, etc., etc. And so on, openly said and all those things. At that particular time, it looked that Sri Lanka is going towards a dictatorial regime, and then this guy is unstoppable. That's how it looked. At that time, all the Tamil activists like us in the Tamil Solidarity, etc., faced a question about how are we going to end this. At that particular time, we said we will work with any opposition that emerges against the Rajapaksa regime in the country to end this, and then we will see the rest afterwards. But when it happened, Tamil Solidarity gave a full support. The key question is that why a Tamil leadership did not oppose bringing down the Rajapaksa family and the regime and the family. Why wouldn't they? This is the question. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't you join this particular call of end the Rajapaksa regime? Why wouldn't you really push your weight behind it? This is an important question. It's a criminal act not to do it. It's not something simple. It's a criminal act from the point of view of the Tamil people interest, from the point of view of most of the oppressed section in the country, etc. It is a criminal act. Why wouldn't you do it? But in fact, you're happy to link up with those who are continuing to oppress. You're happy to kind of see the end of the struggle, etc., etc. This begs the question, which side are you on? This also begs the question, coming back to this question of Sinhala Buddhist nationalism, they're going back into things and they are worrying about themselves, etc., is that it's not a homogeneous population in the South. There are many Sinhala nationalist supporters, the progressive wings, the various things, all various mix of things that happened at the time. It's as bad as criticizing the 2009 protest as, oh, it's a terrorist event. It's a terrorist who are on the street. That's the propaganda of section of the, sort of including the so-called intellectuals and sort of, self-proclaimed intellectuals at the time. It's as bad. It's racistic, idiotic, unscientific, you can name it, wrong on many accounts. It's lack of understanding what actually going on in the south, north, and throughout the country. That is the fundamental. It's lack of understanding of social movement, lack of engagement, lack of strategy. You name it, wrong on many accounts. This particular view. Those who argue this case, they, in my personal view, arguing for their own personal sake and protecting their personal interest, basically. They don't put the society first. That's why they argue this thing. We have to fight this. In fact, they could even extend it and say, oh, it's a single nation struggle. Come on, if there is a struggle going on in Tamil Nadu, we need to get involved. If there is a struggle that's taking place in Palestine, we need to get involved. We need to support the struggle in Palestine. We need to support the struggle in Kashmir. Oh yeah, this is some other nation struggle, we won't get involved. Which means that you don't want to get involved in struggle. Struggle is not your method. Your method is lobbying. The method is to talk to the government. The method is to protect the government so you can talk to the government. That's the two different methods. Which side are you on? You're on the side of the struggle or you are on the side of the state. It's okay. Oh, it's all too powerful, so we have to deal with it. That power is shaken. There is a potential existed to create another power, but you wouldn't get engaged. You still wanted to protect the all-powerful right wing so that you can engage. Let us deconstruct your arguments. Let us deconstruct your methods. Let us deconstruct your strategy. All these NGOs, all this Tamil leadership, we just talking to you directly and asking your motive and your understanding here, really. When you argue these particular cases and so on, let us have an open public debate on this issue if you want. So, it didn't stop the Tamil, the leadership did not stop supporting the single nationalism. There's no other way of explaining this. A downright, rotten, unitary state, single nationalism is what you mobilized up until now since the end of the war. Should I start from Fonseca, before that Chandrika, of course, should I start from Fonseca? Massive amount of what we mobilized. Maitripala, Ranil Wickremesinghe, once again Ranil, while he is carrying out one of the worst kind of attack on all democratic rights. What is that? You mobilize the Tamil population to vote and support a hardcore single nationalist base, but when that particular base is broken by a particular movement, or even kind of broken, not completely broken, pushed aside, and then you don't want to link them. You don't want to have anything to do with it. You don't want to do anything with it. Very fact is that at the time of the Aragalaya, it broke a number of things. Let us register those, what are these things is broken. For example, we involved with these activists to stop this victory day. Up until now, up until Aragalaya, there was a victory day at the time of Mullivaikal in Sri Lanka. It was stopped. Who stopped it? Maitripala Sirisena. Ranil. No, it's the Aragalaya stopped it. Because it's not right. These new young people understand that. They want to commemorate those who died. It is this time people are able to carry symbolically important the picture of Isai Piriya in the streets of Colombo and put it up there, that picture in the secretariat and so on and so forth. It did take place. It's symbolic, very small minority. It doesn't matter, does it? That's how it starts. Why wouldn't you pull our weight behind it? Why this is not an issue, main issue grabbed by the Tamils and promoting? Like, this is what we want from you, comrades. This is what we want from you, friends. This is what we need, etc. Why you turn around and attack? Why you feel insecure about it? Why you feel insecure about the people, young people in the South taking up democratic demands? Where is this insecurity coming from? It shows which side are you on. On the side of the lobby and engagement with the state and power, or on the side of the struggle, engagement with those in struggle. Create an alternative. That is the fundamental question here, really. And on this question, the other one, on this question about the other one, like no Tamil demands, for example, they have not taken up. Tamil Solidarity have put up a statement to the Aragalaya and those who are leading the Aragalaya, for example, to take up the Tamil demands. We're fully aware that not all demands are taken up by the Aragalaya leadership. The Aragalaya, with our influence, with the people that we are working with their influence, and they are able to come through number of demands, including, you may have seen, a so-called goal-face declaration that is known, came to be now. That is also calling for a number of demands that affects the Tamil population. On the political prisoners campaign, the disappeared, etc., etc. Number of issues taken up by them. It's not enough. We have a heavy critique on the question of demand, or etc., etc. But we do not have a situation we reject the support. We fully support these demands. No other force in Sri Lanka, no other governmental state force in Sri Lanka taken up these demands. So when these parts of the people coming to the streets, on the streets they are taking up these demands, we fully support. Of course, through supporting, we make a critique and say, this is not enough, go another step, go further. That's what we say. What's wrong with that? In what way it's wrong? What's wrong with that? So this is the point in terms of the demands, and the Aragalaya didn't take up this demand, Aragalaya didn't do this one, Aragalaya. So it's all excuses. Just listen to yourself. You're putting up an excuse for not taking part in struggle. Just listen to yourself. You're saying all those things, not actively campaign for those issues. What do you mean by what we mean by actively campaigning for these issues? For example, the PTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. Now it's very clear, it's been used by against everybody. It's clear there is a strength building up against it. What do? Who's taking part in it? Let's join together to abolish it. And join together to make sure that no such law is enacted in the country. That way it creates more space for fighting for democratic rights. Fighting for democratic rights, that includes the national rights. Earlier I said, what preventing the Tamil people going into activity and action is also a fear, that fear also substantiated by or added by these draconian laws that exist in the country, from 6th Amendment to PTA to all these things. Shouldn't we join force to get rid of it? Or just stand on the side and say, oh, they're not taking up the demand, so we won't. And then this will not be decided in the corridors of UN or in the parliament in EU. It will be decided in the streets in Sri Lanka. This is a very simple point. But you're not there. You're just spending time in the corridors of UN, but you're not prepared to spend time on the street. That's what we mean by actively campaigning, actively fighting for, etc. So this is the thing. So I think the other point in relation to the dilution, the people might ask, like, okay, this is okay, if we join together, are we giving up the demand for the national right? Are we in a situation where we're just diluting the Tamil struggle? In what way? I never understood in what way this particular argument is valid, and those who argue this fail to explain as well. So the thing is that in the South, for example, now we see an opening. There are many still support the unitary state. We're clear about it. That is the case probably in Tamil areas too at this stage. We don't know about it. However, there is one point, is that if we are going to really campaigning on the basis of, like for example, the national rights of the Tamils, it is the Tamils who have a right to decide. It doesn't have to be decided by the majority. It doesn't have to be. But it cannot be won by rejecting the majority. This is the point. Tamils have a right to decide themselves what kind of country they want to live in, what kind of a constitution they want, what kind of a governance they want, etc. Yes. However, are you going to achieve that by having a war with the Sri Lanka and generally the singular population and also South Asia and everything? You're happy to link up with Modi, right with Modi, but you're not happy to kind of talk to the people on the street and winning their support. This is a question of strategy. What is the strategy to win these rights? Where are we going to get the support from? Where are you going to build your strength? That's the fundamental. What strength you have and how are you going to build it? Are you not going to build when it open up certain support with the flexibility, not with the compromise? This is another key point. With the flexibility, not compromising, with the flexibility and building. If you don't have a confidence in yourself as a political leader or NGO or activist, etc., yes, you may worry about dilution because you don't have trust in yourself. But if you do have a confidence in your ideas and what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, then you develop a strategy how you strengthen yourself. There is an open situation exists now in order to do that. Enter the dialogue with the masses. Talking to Bandaranaike didn't help. Talking to Srima Bandaranaike didn't help. Talking to JR didn't help. When did you ever talk to the people in the history of Sri Lanka? When did you ever establish links and then proper campaign in the south and the north and also in the hill country and everywhere? That's what the strategy, fundamental strategy must change. We are in that particular time. So this is who argue these questions. It is those really don't do anything except lobbying. This is boiled down to the question of those who wanted to just do the lobby and those who want to build the struggle. That's it. There's a big difference exists here. There's two different approach here, completely different. Those who just wanted to engage the power with the tie and going into the corridors of UN and the parliament, shake hands with the oppressive sections, the oppressors themselves, and then beg them that somehow things would get better. Not today, not tomorrow, not 10 years, maybe 100 years or 200 years later, we don't know. What we put forward is different. We engage in the struggle. We wanted to really bring it down and explore every possibilities in terms of ending this repression for all. Through that, achieving the rights of the Tamils, including the national rights. That's a fundamentally different position.